off the top of your head that we could pull into this to give us some support? Or you need to think about that for a while?
Well, I just got an email from Bev Dunn. He'd be good. He's a past
Well, see,
president.
Bev was not real active when I left.
I know. Well, he works in the background, but he's
Okay, well,
solid.
that's wonderful. That's the kind of information I don't have.
Okay, I'll look through the membership thing and I'll put a list together.
All right, now let me go ahead and make a few more comments, and then I'm just a good listener, I hope.
So do we.
You know, Tom, what this group needs to, what I think our purpose is, as I said in this mail I sent out to you, what was seen by the Board of Trustees and what was seen by some of the membership in that proposal that was carried to Hawaii in February of 19, that is not what I had worked on.
I know.
That was Koopa's creation.
I know.
Jane, you were there. And Bernie was there. It was my understanding that he came into the meeting that I was not in and told you that he had been to the Academy central office and they had $4.5 million available for us, and that's what he wanted to propose. And the group agreed with him. Am I wrong?
I just want to add, those MailChimps that went out starting in September or whenever it was, Bernie, they had the whole proposal going out to the membership.
Right.
Well, that was not what I had worked on.
I know.
I agree. I understand. I'm saying, what I'm sharing with you is the whole membership has seen that now. A lot of people have.
But that was Koopa's creation, and it was intended to sabotage, not to support what we were doing. We didn't know.
Counter that with another MailChimp.
Yeah, and that was my fault.
Yeah.
I proposed him to be on the board thinking he would be supportive.
No.
Well, he may have been when he accepted until that jewel of the lawsuit that he wanted his son to get
I know.
came along, and he may have switched sides at that point.
Yep.
I don't know what the motives of all of these different groups were. They came together to defeat the JU idea.
I know.
I don't know what De Silva and Lozada, I can't imagine. Well, De Silva, he's on an ivory tower. But Lozada told me 3 years ago that the money that we raised and gave to Loma Linda saved the residency program and saved his job.
And they never used it. It's still sitting in surplus or something. They never used that money.
They kept it though.
Yeah,
and
right, they kept it.
And the residency stayed alive.
Yeah.
Goodacre closed the hospital base.
Does anybody know why the current 6 residency programs, Bernie, you might know the answer to this. Why haven't they been able to get COTA approval?
They don't meet the requirements. I can tell you.
Because of the ADA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Andy, the best response to that would be one of the things that COTA looks at, and I've been on some conference calls since COVID, we don't have consistency of the programs, Andy. And they want multiple programs with consistent programs. For example, Loma Linda's is a 3-year program. Harvard may be a 2-year program. Tufts may be a 2-year program. So the conversation with COTA would be, you lack consistency. The curriculums are different. And so therefore COTA just basically spits it out and throws it out. Anesthesia, as I understand it, had challenges like this, Andy, and they went to a think tank, got congruency of their programs, So for the most part, they looked alike. We'll say 80% of it looked alike. All were 3-year programs, all had these criteria that had to be met, all had these checkpoints. And maybe there were uniqueness in some of the programs based on, certain procedures, but they got consistency and then therefore got CODA approval. We don't
Really?
have
Okay.
like that. It
Well,
might in and of itself be a political thing, but it is a reality.
What
Well,
about the ADS, Bernie? Is Frank still working on that for us?
The ABDS,
Yeah, ADS. To counteract the ADA as a certifying board.
I want to share with you that a lot of the efforts that Frank was doing prior to March have been somewhat placed on hold.
Okay.
And he's going to give us a report in August on the 8th at our next board meeting. We have another meeting. We had a meeting in June. We're going to have a meeting in August.
All right.
And he was on the agenda. We had too much on the agenda for June, so we've split it. And
Okay.
he's on the second half of the agenda for August. And I can report back to you about where he is with that.
Where's
But-
that meeting going to be? Will that be,
The meeting's going to be in Atlanta, but it's going to be a virtual.
Yeah.
no,
I
the
mean, I just
August
said-
meeting?
August meeting is a virtual meeting now, based on what has transpired. It was going to be in Atlanta, and last week, the 4th of July, I sent out an email saying, given the safety and the travel, and so Atlanta's now going back to 10, no more than 10 people gathering in one place. So that happened yesterday. I actually felt like it was going to happen, Andy, and submitted to the board for travel timing that let's just have a virtual meeting.
All right, if Jim,
Andy,
yeah,
let me bring Frank Recker back into it.
okay,
Frank was in our group of 8 working on what became the JU proposal. Bernie was part of that group of 8. Shane was part, and Cooper, and Frank Recker was part of it. That's 4 of the 8 right there. And Frank made a trip to Orlando sometime in the spring. No, I don't remember when it was. Frank made a trip. I made a trip from France. Bernie, were you in Orlando with us? With Dean German at UCF?
No, that was I wasn't there. We were at a conference somewhere. You guys flew over and came. And Shane, were you there?
I've been to Florida, but with our group, with the Oregon group.
Okay.
It was-
No, I wasn't
Shane-
there. I didn't make the trip. Oh, Gibney was.
Shane was not, Bernie was not there.
Yeah, we went to
Rajiv Patel and Steve Hewitt were there. And Dean German was open to working with us, but she said because they were a state school, she is a unique person. She started with a double-wide mobile home, and she has built that medical school and that whole medical city that they have there at UCF. She's been the generator of it. And her first graduating medical class graduated free of any expenses. She raised the money to support them, tuition and maybe living expenses. But Frank was in that meeting with us and in the formulation of the ideas that we had once JU became the focus. UCF, she said it would take a minimum of 3 years because of the politics, state politics, to implement anything there. 2 years before, I think it was 2 years before, she had told us she would match anything we raised up to $50 million to start a graduate implant residency program at UCF. But Frank Recker, in conversations with him privately and within part of our group, Frank was of the opinion that if we implemented the JU program and we had it in operation with 15 programs the first year, a minimum of 15, 10 the second year, so that 18 months after we began the first program, we would have 25 programs functioning. And he said, if we take that with a single curriculum, a single concept united to CODA, that they are frightened to death of a lawsuit, and he felt that they would modify their requirements to include that as being acceptable.
All right,
That was-
yeah.
Shane,
that was just-
Shane, hold on a minute, help. Shane, were you aware of any of that?
Yeah, absolutely. All of it.
Okay.
I'm looking at the CODA site right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give you guys some insight, there are 30 members, and of the 30 members, and I'm gonna make some assumption here. There's 8 specialty members. There are 4 members from the ADA, 4 members from the dental boards, and 4 members from the Dental Education Association. So that would be 12 and 20 of the 30 people are we would consider education/specialty. And then, so the interesting thing, anesthesiology, oral medicine, oral facial pain, specialty care, they all get 1 member. Students get 1 member. General public gets 4 members. And then when you go on to look at the membership, it has it list their names. So unfortunately, one of them is our dean from Oregon. He's going to be anti-approval. And the chair is an MD, which tells me the chair is an oral surgeon. The chair of the CODA right now is an oral surgeon. And
So the Jim Rakowski's efforts to rewrite the CODA standard at or above the existing standards of all of them is going to be running up against politics, which happened 20 years ago.
it happens every
Or it
year.
happened 4 years ago.
It happens every year.
So then we're going to have to go the route with Frank Recker then.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
For it.
Frank felt that they were fearful of a lawsuit in federal court.
Well, why did they create CODA and ADS? It's just, we might as well be dealing with the ADA. It's the same thing.
Yeah, the ADA just replaced CODA as the gatekeeper
Yeah, and then stacked it with all their boys.
to block us.
You're
They
right.
weren't, they accepted anesthesiology and
Yeah,
facial pain.
all the non-confrontational issues.
Right.
Well,
It was an end run. They pulled an end run.
At one point, we knew 2 people on CODA. One was Bart Johnson out of Seattle, who's passed away now, and then the other one was the dean of Western, who's Steve Fredrickson. And so we've had this issue in terms of getting this through CODA. You got to understand a couple of things. One is what Bernie mentioned is we have to have multiple consistencies, number one, which would make sense for, like, say a Oregon, Tennessee, Puerto Rico program, right?
Right.
Free will not do it. Frank said we needed a tidal wave.
Yeah, you need multiple deals on this. The other part is to even apply, you have to be up and running for a year or 2,
Right.
18 months,
and
what Frank said.
that's another deal. Is that until we're up and running for a while, the discussion is kind of mute.
And you see what I was elated when JU agreed that, first off, I had 32 diplomates that said they were willing to be or to consider being directors. Frank said that, when we went to JU, and we asked them, and the only contact with JU out of our group was through Jim Gibney until I spoke with Dr. Sapienza within the last month. I had a 2-hour conversation with her, and I gave her the complete story of what has happened as best I knew it. And she was sympathetic and still was fully on board with us. But they accepted the premise that I suggested to them, that every program we had would become an off-site component of Jacksonville University legally. And they accepted that. I was elated when they did. So it all fits the concept that Frank had of presenting a united front with 25 or more programs functioning with a common curriculum, a common didactic program, a similar faculty, and with concepts that are totally outside of what anybody else is teaching as also part of our curriculum.
So a little more information, guys, to supplement what Dr. Tatum is saying. When you look at the programs out there, there's 101 oral surgery programs. Oral facial pain has 6. Anesthesiology was able to do it with 9, and craniofacial special patient care is 6. So you don't have to have a lot of, you just have to have some consistency.
What was the second one you mentioned, Shane?
There's some, the second one was craniofacial and special care in orthodontics. There's 6.
Andy, that's really not the question.
Yeah.
This was formed to block the specialty of oral implantology.
No, I'm speaking to the number of, for implants, you could probably do it with as little as 5 or 10 programs. We don't have to go for 25.
Well, Frank felt that that would be the threat of going into court.
Better.
Going into court with 25 functioning programs. He felt that that was the threat that had a good chance, or that CODA might modify and accept. Otherwise, we go to court.
Okay,
I got it.
how long ago was that Frank quoted that? Was it a couple years ago, or?
That was when we were working on this. When we were working on this 18 months ago.
Okay.
February 2019. Here's what I got a question for, Hilt. And I'm glad you were referencing Frank in this. One hang up that you have is craniofacial pain is what you're referencing, Shane, that has 6 programs and anesthesia has 9.
Correct.
Where is the training taking place? Where is it housed?
You want me to look here? It has it by state too.
As you look that up, I want you to understand that one Achilles heel that we have is this private practice setting. Frank has said February 2019, we're in Hawaii at the board meeting, that it can't be in a private practice setting for training.
So anesthesiology, most of them are in, sorry to interrupt, Bernie.
No, that's good. I want you to help me.
Most of them are in New York. There's one in Pittsburgh. There's one in Chicago, and one at Loma Linda.
And what they're affiliated with are either universities or hospitals.
That's correct.
There's none of them in a private practice training program. So that's something you guys as a think tank have to strategize and overcome. You can't go to court with 6 to 10 programs or 12 to be able to match more than what craniofacial pain has, and the training be coupled with didactic at JU and having clinical training, similar curriculum at a dental practice.
Right. So at that,
Right, you can't, Bernie, in regard to that, I'm sorry, Shane, you go ahead.
so I want to add to what Bernie is saying. I didn't finish this on our last discussion, Andy. When you are applying, so the AEGD that you're saying that they have in Alabama, what I didn't know that on the endo. So when I go and look at this deal on the AEGD, there's 84 programs that are 12 months, and there's 9 programs that are 24 months. Okay.
Mhm.
So there's a total of like 93 programs for AEGD. When you go look under endo, there's 55 programs for endo. And so when you, to Bernie's point, is you have to look at the affiliation. So when you're looking at a private practice affiliation, that even makes it a bigger burden to standardize everybody. And then you're being compared to general dentistry, which is not a specialty. So one of the nuances of CODA is this specialty recognition, that if you want to be specialty recognized, like anesthesiology, they're all associated with hospitals or a university. And so with JU, so this goes back to Bernie's, Bernie, you mentioned that JU had a clinic in Atlanta, right? And I don't know if you can hear us, but what's the clinic?
They have an ortho program in Atlanta.
Yeah, so how do they pull that off? Is it just one?
Yeah, but the orthos are already a recognized specialist.
Okay, Bernie, do you know about the dental school down in Bradenton, Florida?
I've heard about it, yes.
Okay, it's out of Erie, Pennsylvania. They have CODA approval, and they don't have a dental clinic in the dental school. They're getting all the dental didactic training for the students in the dental clinics of the general dentists in the community. So the precedent is already out there to get out from under that.
So Andy, this is kind of a little disconnect. CODA is the same CODA standard is not the same whether it's for a dental school, hygiene program, endo, oral surgery, whatever it is, right? So they're being compared. So like that dental school is being compared with the other dental school. As long as it meets certain criteria, they're going to get it approved, right?
I gotcha.
And so that's the problem we run into is we don't have a standard that they can compare us to. We have to set that standard.
Mm-hmm.
Am I making sense? Like
Frank felt with 25 plus programs, we would be setting a new standard and asking them to accept it with the threat of federal court action if they didn't.
So one of the advisors to us more recently with CODA, he actually, before COVID hit, he was going to be brought in as one of their directors. We spoke with him about this. He says, you're not going to be able to accomplish this from a private practice setting. Too much politics. Your comment, Andy, about the Bradenton School is to meet a current standard that already exists. Like Shane was pointing. We're talking about something that is a turf battle, that you have 3 specialties that don't want to ever become. And you're going to walk in with a precedence of not having clinical training in a hospital setting or in a medical or in a dental school setting. It's just something they're going to push that out. So I want us to venture into this with vision and goals.
All right.
And ambition.
Andy
but
Burton, you there?
Be respectful.
You there? Should I throw out what we got going here in Tennessee and North Carolina?
Well, you can, but it still seems like to me that still is potentially, I got to figure out from a think tank standpoint, how do we turn this into something that is not still private practice? I mean, does an institute, or does it have to become an institution in order to meet those type of requirements?
So it goes back, that discussion, again, if I'm missing something, because this has been years in learning this crap, okay? One of them is each state board has an education board. So in the state of Oregon, in the state of Tennessee, your education board will accredit the universities or the educational institutions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you can go through that system, and then you can do Department of Education, you can bypass this whole CODA crap, okay? But as far as CODA is concerned, then they look at an institute won't work, is what I'm saying. It has to be an institution.
Mhm.
I mean, I have an institute. I've had it for 10, 11 years now. It wouldn't meet the criteria.
Mhm.
No, but Jacksonville University is an institution.
Yeah, but the clinical training is not taking place there. They don't have a dental school. If they had a dental school, it would work.
If the programs were all off-site components legally of Jacksonville University, then you've got an arguable point there.
Maybe, but here's the thing: is Jacksonville University is dictated by the Southern Regional Board, is what the last discussion with them was. So they are accredited. Their accrediting body is the Educational Board of Southern States, whatever that's called. Okay. Part of that accreditation. So this goes back to, remember the discussion we had with Dean German at UCF, Dr. Tatum, is the UCF system, because it's a state system, they would have to go through the whole state legislature and or figure out a way to accredit this program. Where JU is a private
So
school
we'll avoid that.
and it's regional. So no, they don't avoid it, but they have more liberties. They have more, they can like create for example, they can create a Master's of Science in Oral Implantology, and they can do it under the hospice of one of their existing programs, which I believe is probably how they did their ortho deal. But
Shane, if we created like a beta test center for the residency program, and then we duplicated it consistently, and the buildings would have to be, owned real estate, and the practices would be run as a separate entity in the same piece of real estate, you could separate it there.
sure, yeah.
Bernie, I've got two practices up here. One's an 11,000 square foot facility. The other one's about a 4,400 square foot facility. One of them could be thrown into the foundation. It has currently, the state has assets of like $600,000, and the practice would be worth considerable. Andy would be up at that office. That could be the graduate residency program, and then the other practice here could be the private practice here. There's a third one, and this I don't want to go beyond anybody on this conversation. I've been eyeballing the Cherokee Casino reservation over in North Carolina. It's about an hour's drive from here. We could circumvent state license law, and even by doing our training session, or even going in there and building a facility there and bringing people in from all over, where as long as they had a U.S. dental license, they could do training there. So that would give us something completely different. It would be a teaching hospital sense, and we could do it in conjunction with doing the way they're doing it up in Wisconsin is on a Cherokee reservation through the dental lab I'm using up there, but they can only access it 3 months of the year because the weather's so bad. They do free implant dental work on the reservation folks and whoever needs it. And then the reservation dental clinic gets the full fee for the dental work that they put on the implants that they're done through the dental implant program. I mean, that's like way outside the box, but it would work.
So Andy, I just the topic of accreditation, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say we go out and start a program, and we say we're going to call it a hygiene program or a dental school. We're going to go start a dental school, okay? They're going to say, okay, there's this precedence, there's this standard that you have to meet to become a dental school and or to become a hygiene school, whatever it is, okay? The problem we're having is when you go in and say, hey, we have a program for implant dentistry, right? They're going to say, we don't have a standard to compare you to. And then the first thing that happens is the oral surgeons, the periodontists, and the prosthodontists, and now the endodontists, and probably the orthodontist next, all jump up front and say, wait a minute, implant dentistry is part of our discipline and we teach it in our program. We don't need another specialty, right? So this game has been played for so many years, it's ridiculous. So the way to combat that is when you go in and say, all right, wait a minute, like everything you spoke to is operational and I believe you and I agree with you, okay? Like we can skin this cat any way you'd like.
Yeah.
But from an educational accreditation setting, right? If we go in and say, hey, look, we've got JU, we've got Oregon Health Sciences University, we've got University of Puerto Rico, right? There's 3 different programs. And JU has certified 10 of them, okay? And Oregon has maybe certified 2 of them, and Puerto Rico has certified 1, whatever it might be. We come up with this number and this standard, and we say, here is the standard, that here's the criteria that we're following. And the Jacksonville University confers a Master's of Science in oral implantology, and so does University of Puerto Rico, right? Whatever the institution might be. Now you have a case. Now you can go in and say, look, guys, we've not only have a consistent standard that we're meeting, we're operational. We have been operational for many years. So let's just call it what it is. And now you don't have an argument. But when we go in and we're going, so the problem is, like we put these programs together and say, okay, hey, I'm doing a high-end comprehensive implant dental practice, but I'm not, even though I'm doing something very similar to you, Andy, or to Tom, or to Joe, there's enough differences that's keeping us apart from getting this accreditation.
Well, let me share something with the group. Back from October through February of 18 and 19, I lost some sleepless nights of trying to figure out. I felt like our ace in the hole, along with the other things, was that we had training concepts, successful training concepts that nobody else had, that were totally outside of the training of any of the other specialties. And that this was our ace card if we could play it. But I lost sleepless nights on how can we implement this into our residency programs. If we have 15 residencies the first year and 10, we got 25, maybe 21 or 22 of them would have directors that were fully competent to teach and train the whole scope of what we were claiming. And I lost sleepless nights. And then about March of last year, I came up with an idea. It was in, again, like the sinus graft procedure. It was in twilight sleep, I think. And I was thinking, if I'm in Yokohama and I got to get to the other side of Yokohama and back to the airport, and I've got nobody to take me, how can I do it? It's simple. I get a GPS, and a GPS does it for me in English. And so Andy Burton is a part of what went on at that time. He was my right hand, my left hand, he and Joe. And each surgery that we were going to do that fitted into this concept, and the name of the concept is NIRSAB, Natural Implant Restoration in Stable Alveolar Bone. And Bernie has considerable insight into it. Andy Burton has more than anybody else on this call because he spent 4 years now deeply immersed in it. But what the plan was that we write a script for every surgery that we do within this concept. And then we video that script so that the finished product is a step-by-step teaching program that can be used. You're laughing at me, Andy. If I'm wrong, you tell me.
No, I'm just looking at my baby girl eating a piece of buttered bread.
Oh, well, I'd smile if I was looking at that red hair too. I'm going to steal it from him. I'm telling you in advance. But in this concept, if Tom Chess is a director of a program, and we're about to do a TVO, which is a vascularized osteotomy, and Tom doesn't know how to do a vascularized osteotomy, but we put the training tape on for his resident, and it tells him the first step of the surgery is you put the scalpel in such and such a place. Then we show it on the video. You cut it off and the student does that. The next step, you carry the scalpel where it needs to go, and you go all the way through the surgery that way till the completion and through the restorative. So not only is Tom teaching his resident, Tom are watching this, and that Tom is learning it along with his resident. And we began to develop these in the spring of last year. It took, for the first ones I did, it took between 8 and 10 hours for me to write the script on the cases we did. I realized as we do more and more, it will become faster, but I don't know how much faster.
Shane, would that give the consistency that we need for accreditation among the programs?
This is how we're going to train our residents in that 18 months before we make application to CODA. We're going to have a library of surgical procedures.
Shane, have you heard of this before?
What he's describing?
Yes.
Yes, we've talked about this with the different modules and different scenarios.
Okay.
Hey, I'm going to switch over to my phone because I've got to move a little bit. Sorry, to switch over to the curriculum side of it, Andy, that we can, in terms of consistency from Frank Recker's perspective in creating the standard, I think we have to look at the multi-center and getting someone like JU, getting Puerto Rico, conferring some kind of degree to validate the curriculum that we put together. So it's a little detailed, like in the weeds, but if you can put that curriculum together and standardize it, and then have it meet the standards that whoever the institution is that's going to confer this degree is going to have their standards for accreditation for the curriculum, right? And then so if you outlined it or laid it out as Dr. Tatum just mentioned, then yes, you can for sure push it up the chain and get it accredited. Does that answer your question?
I think so. I wanted to see how the GPS worked in the program to get towards accreditation. Bernie, where's things at with Jim Rakowski rewriting the standard? Is that for all of us, or for how's that working? Do you know anything about all that?
Yeah, I do. How can I say this?
Well, I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, I just want to see. So the conversation about rewriting the standard was a tricky and a challenging proposal. It went from requesting things of them and inviting others to be a part of it to now we're going to write it ourselves and present it to them. So kind of a similar concept that we're presenting here. We create a residency and with all the organized standardizations, and then push it in front of them and say, here, the thing I'm trying to get you guys to understand is the one thing I've been telling you, you got to solve that one. And then I think it's all pretty good to go. I mean, the conversations with Wachowski involve Harvard, Loma Linda, Tufts, Buffalo,
Roseman, University
Roseman University, right? And they
in
dropped
Texas.
Harvard and Loma Linda off because they're not politically correct. Now you got Buffalo, Roseman,
Tufts, Loma Linda.
Tufts. No, they dropped Tufts and drop off Harvard and
Mhm.
drop off Loma Linda because politically we run into challenges there. The ones that work are Buffalo, Roseman. Take this to. We need institutions. Is what I'm trying to tell you. In other words, if we run into politics with Loma Linda because they kind of string us along, then they cut bait. Has been their, it's how we've experienced them. Roseman's on board. Shunker's in behind on that one. Buffalo's on board. Bob Buheit is a name hilt that you might want to include in the Tom Chess conversation. Bob Buheit is behind. He's behind Buffalo.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
he is Buffalo. Bob is about 88 years old. And his son, who is with him, is not involved in the implant politics at all.
Huh.
So after Bob's 88, I'm 86. He's 86, 88, or 89. After Bob, what?
Well, you got to get in there and get going, and then infuse the philosophy with the next person who's 54, 55.
Well, I mean, I don't know. But I've had multiple conversations with Bob.
You got to have somebody who's going to carry the torch. Is what I'm sharing.
Yeah, well, it has concerned me about he's worked so hard to create I guess it's built now, isn't it, Bernie?
I think it is. I think they got money for it. I don't know if it's built, but they are ready.
Well, it was underway 20 months ago.
Yeah,
But Bob, and when I asked him, "Is your son? How involved is your son?" I didn't get a real positive. He's in the practice, but we're talking about not only clinical, we're talking about political here. And when Bob's gone, that's going to be Buffalo's program.
It seems to me that we need to pull Frank Recker in as one of our advisors.
I didn't bring Frank in until the group met and that y'all are agreeable with Frank being here. I didn't bring him in arbitrarily.
I'm all for it. Sounds like he's the linchpin to make this happen.
Absolutely.
Well, I brought Frank into the group of 8 that we had, and he participated fully with us. And he probably got a lot of skin off of his hide for doing it.
Well,
My internet connection is unstable here too.
could you approach him, Hilt, and see if he would be interested?
Of course I can.
All right, let's do it.
I'm the one that started Frank on his journey
Okay.
30 years ago.
Mhm.
Hill, we're not going to have that argument again.
So,
Hey guys,
I understand that,
Guys,
that Bernie, we need to get institutions. And then the bigger thing is, was there an issue that we ever had with curriculum that was especially from Shane, from your perspective, that you had maybe encountered some issues there? There was a little bit of rebuttal or rub from Loma Linda. Do we need to clean all that up?
The quick answer is yes, but let me get back to this in a minute. I apologize. I got cut out a little bit, so I didn't hear all of what Bernie was saying. But Bernie, where are we at with our dean from Utah that's going to be going on CODA? Did he ever?
That's the advisor I'm telling them about. That's the one who gives us the best reasonable intel, and he based on some conversations, we're better off getting our program, getting everything organized with the right criteria, with the institutional spaces, the similar curriculum, the consistency to this purpose, and then presenting it rather than trying to do it in a clinical practice setting. The only thing I hear what we're saying we haven't solved is the institution, whether it be a hospital or a dental school, to do it in. And the solution was Rosemont, Oregon. That's the other one. If Shane can make that work, and Buffalo, maybe Tufts. I'm not saying Harvard and Loma Linda won't be a part. I just don't count on it.
Or JU. Or what about JU? Did you say JU already?
Well, the advantage we have to JU, they don't have the politics of the oral surgeons, the periodontists, the prosthodontists.
Neither does Rosemont. Rosemont doesn't have it either. They don't. As I understand, they don't have a perio or oral surgery program. See, you want to go to like Eastern Carolina, where there are no.
What's that?
You want to go to an Eastern Carolina and propose.
I've already approached them. That's not going to work. They're too tied into the politics of the North Carolina system. North Carolina has. I could try it again, but the director of the program down there is an endodontist, and they have about 9 locations through the state where they're doing training. 2 of them are near me. One is in Sylva, North Carolina. The other one's in Banner Elk, both about an hour drive from me. And they have the senior dental students rotate through 3 of the 9 facilities their senior year in dental school. They have an AEGD program and a GPR program out of these places. They have 2 main dentists that are professors. Then they have the residents that are underneath them. But the politics in North Carolina in dentistry, it's ferocious.
The
And
politics.
They
The
have a
politics
dean-
of the American Academy of Implant Dentistry is ferocious. Andy, what's new?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, and they also have a dean that's knee deep in ADA politics too.
That's the challenge we have. So, okay, scratch Eastman. I was just saying because they didn't have, as I
Yeah.
understood it, oral surgery and perio. You know,
So
they don't
Andy?
The only program they have there is an endo program, and I think that's because the dean's an endodontist from Charlotte.
have. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So Andy, to go back to your curriculum question, is Dr. Tatum had written all the outline and probably about a third, maybe half of the curriculum already at the last discussion with.
We had the first 2 years complete in the curriculum, and we were working
Right,
on the
so-
3rd year.
So if you take that curriculum, Andy, and you submit it to the university, you say, here's the curriculum that we want to teach, then they have to go through their accreditation and either add, edit, supplement, whatever, to allow them to confer this degree, right? So that's one step. The other step is you take that curriculum and you give it to CODA. They have no standards to weigh it against, right? So what you have to do, and this is where I think we need Jim Rakowski's help, is that if the academy session we've had, and again, I apologize, I missed what Bernie was saying, but if the academy writes that standard in our little summit that we were planning to have and invites these different schools, and they look at that standard and say, yeah, we can work with this, or we can accept this, or they give input into it, now you've got the standard set from input from different schools, right? So not only do we have to write the curriculum, but we also have to write the standard that it's going to go against. So whether you go to Loma Linda or Harvard or Utah or Tennessee, you're going to meet these, you're going to have to do X, Y, Z, and then each program is going to have its little nuance, right? Just like all the other specialties. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It does. Yeah, that makes sense. Because we also took, because we approached East Tennessee State University, Andy and I did, and tried to also broach into their medical school a little bit, and kind of got shut down. And I was just curious because we took those first 2 years that Hilt had done, and then in order to make it complete, we kind of completed what we thought best would complete that. And it ends up being to get a master's in oral implantology is really not a small task.
But certain schools, like, so I can speak to this. This was again, kind of a side idea or workaround some of the school politics, is in Oregon, if you have an MD or a DMD degree, you can apply to OHSU for this Masters of Correlation and Research, right? And then once you get in there, so you might be a totally different specialties, right? Like dermatology or ENT, in our case, dentistry, right? They have these core classes, standards that you have to take in order to confer that degree. But the rest of it is kind of liberal. Like you can create your own curriculum essentially. And if we presented this curriculum, if we started operating under this curriculum that you guys are describing, the 3-year program, and then you confer a Master's of Correlation and Research, we can go back to the dental school or even the dean of the entire OHSU and say, look, guys, we've been doing this for a couple of years now, and we have X number of residents that have conferred a Master's in Correlation and Research. Why don't we just call it what it is, and let's call it a Master's in Oral Implantology? And I think at that point you have something to stand on in our politics in Oregon. Now, it may or may not be the same.
Shane, let me interrupt you. Let me interrupt you, Shane. I think we should be using the term comprehensive oral implantology in everything that we say. I think the word comprehensive is critical.
And so I'm fine with that. We can call it Masters of Science in Comprehensive Oral Implantology.
Shane, that covers the change in definition from the periodontist to include implants and the prosthodontist to include they're doing the surgery in implants. Same thing. Hilt's right.
No, I agree. I agree. So we can definitely massage that. I was just talking to the concept and the process as far as how to get this through. But like I can tell you right now, our dean at Oregon is a periodontist who doesn't like blood, and he basically doesn't believe in what any of this stuff we're talking about, and it'll never happen through the dental school. That I can, with certain concepts, I can share with you all. So our workaround is to go through the medical school or the university, and in order to get this done. But we can also be.
Is that what you're, Shane? Is that what you're planning on doing? Going through the medical school out there and doing the runaround?
That is one of our options on the table, yes. And so we could certainly, the discussion last year when we were talking with the group with JU was we might have a program in Oregon, but it's being accredited by JU.
Well, let me give you, Shane, let me give you what Andy and I ran into, and Andy just touched on it a little earlier. Both of us went and talked to the East Tennessee State University, and we have our own medical school here right in Johnson City, and the dean of the medical school was there. And right after our meeting, he didn't say a whole word through the whole meeting. He got on the phone probably with the dental school. Dental school shot it down because it's all state funded and they're all connected. So, you know, the Oregon, if it's a state medical school, they're going to pick the phone up and you're going to be involved in the politics of the dental school right away.
Right, but
is that how it works out there? That
is true, but what the degree that we're going after is being conferred by OHSU, and it's not related to the dental school. So they can't
Are they all still state funded universities, or are they private? Is that private?
No, they're state funded, but they can't keep our residents from getting an MCR. Is what I'm sharing with you.
Yeah, I wish Jack Lemmons
And it,
could help.
yeah, but
What
see,
happened to
but see that,
Jack today?
I don't know. He may be stuck down in Clinton. I think.
yeah, the other deal with our experience in Central Florida with Dean German is you had a progressive dean. I forget his name, but his vice dean, her vice dean is from Tennessee, and he
Yeah.
helped set up the. Do you know that name?
Yeah, they're over at Vanderbilt now, I believe.
Right. So he got what we were saying, and he was all for it because he said, "Oh, it's
Well,
just a dual degree."
I haven't approached Vanderbilt. Now, Vanderbilt's a private school over in Nashville. But I still, you still got a dental school over there in Nashville.
They don't have a dental school. They have a deep oral surgery residency program.
Yeah,
They would block politically anything you're after.
yeah. So that brings us back to JU.
JU is our
I think it's the ticket.
deal.
Yeah, I mean, JU would go around and certify these offices or these programs, right?
Andy,
So that
would it be best to pull in these other programs like the ones that Shane was talking about, and Bernie was talking about, the Roseman, the Tufts, the Buffalo, and be co-partners here, or should we do it separately and on our own? What do you think, Hill?
If we developed a standardized curriculum, it would be wonderful if we could include them. Now, Shanker is going to run the Roseman program, so he probably could manage that. Bob Buhite is probably well advanced politically in what he's doing there at Buffalo. So I don't know how much flexibility he would have. I don't know anything about Tufts. You know,
Well, what's the direction?
the thing is, the thing that's so exciting here to me is we have in Dr. Sapienza a provost who has developed a graduate program in her own specialty of audiology, I think it was,
Yeah.
speech pathology or audiology. And she has done it successfully, and she is enthusiastic about making this program work. I think that, and I gathered that from my conversation.
Well, Hill, do I need to get on a plane and go down and talk to her?
Well, I had 2-hour conversation, I think it was 2 hours, a month ago, and she has been copied on the prelude to this meeting. I think I covered everything that needed to be covered right now with her in the conversation I had.
So we need
Now,
to get a little
you
further.
remember that to start a program by the 1st of January, they have to have an approval from their governing body in the Southeastern Educationals, whatever the organization is, to begin a new program and the parameters of it. And that is what she had proposed doing this year, but it got caught in the turmoil of AAID conflict, and so it wasn't done. If we are making progress and it looks as if we have, or if it looks as if you have the possibility of moving forward, they probably would be willing to make an application this coming January to participate in a program if it can be funded. The original funding that I put together was for 3 years was $3.2 million. 200,000 of that was going to Oregon, to Shane's group to sign their contract on their facility in the same building with the AGD facility. Their plan was to have 8 residents a year. Shane, are you still on?
I'm still on. I'm here.
Well, something that was never mentioned at that time, but it was in the back of my mind. I felt that if you guys signed that contract and you started that facility, that Phil Knight was going to be involved with you in some way. And I could not imagine that after making the offer that he did to James some 2 or 3 years before, or 3 years before, that he would not have been supportive. And of course, if he became supportive of what you were doing there, it's very possible, as he saw the progress, he very well might become involved with the old project later, after he developed some ownership of what you were doing. But that was in the back of my mind.
Not as long as our president is wearing a yellow shirt with a Puma.
What now? Say
Not
that
as long
again.
as I said not as long as our president is wearing a yellow shirt with a Puma emblem.
I know that was hard for you, Shane. I really do.
With a what emblem?
Back on there.
Bernie's shirt. I'm talking about Bernie's shirt. No, I agree
Bernie's
with you.
shirt
Dr.
held to a Nike brand. Is Shane is Phil Knight a viable prospect for donation?
Not right now. I don't think he is right now. But
Yeah, we had 6 meetings with him, and there's some history there we can talk about later, Andy. But we feel like we do have access, and we may have a second shot at it if we can show what we're really doing. But there's something else I want to share.
Shane, do you need a piece of real estate in a foundation to make that happen with him? If you would go back to him and say, you've got a foundation, you've got real estate, you've got some assets in the foundation, would that make him look at this differently?
Possibly speak for him, but I can tell you from our past experience, it would probably need to be in Oregon is another hangup. So
I think they need to succeed in Oregon.
Yeah.
To get his
yeah,
foot in.
the other perspective
I'm a real estate broker in 4 states. I can come out and find you a piece of real estate. Give me 2 weeks.
Andy, they don't meet. They've got a bill.
You got it already ready?
They can sign a lease
So you
on
guys-
in conjunction
Yeah,
with the AGD. That is ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Another perspective I want you guys to think about is who our target audience is, my answer is the residents, right? And so it's a 2-edged sword in developing this curriculum and this program, because you are asking people to sign on in potentially not accredited program or curriculum. So the first group of residents that go through may get certificates, and I want Bernie to speak to that, because he went through the Loma Linda program on traveling, right? And so there's one of the challenges is our target audience and trying to get residents that are going to be signing up for this curriculum.
I could tell you, we got a bunch of them down in Puerto Rico this year. Shane, they're young kids. They're thirsty for knowledge, and they want to get ABOI accredited as quick as they can. If you look at the path the ABOI certified. If you look at the path to certification to ABOI, these kids have to be out of school for 7 years. If they can go through a 3-year program and we can get them prepped for the ABOI board exam, written and oral, and they can get into it 4 years sooner. There's a bunch of them, and it would be the cream of the crop of the kids coming out of dental school. We have a whole gang of them down in Puerto Rico. These kids are amazing.
Perfect. Yeah,
You can't look at a better example of that than Andy Burton.
Yeah.
I mean, Bernie, are you still on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Is he still on?
Have you changed your shirt yet,
Can you
Bernie?
speak?
Huh?
Hey, Bernie,
You?
have
Did
you
you change
changed
your
your shirt, put a Nike shirt on?
No, I haven't done that yet.
Oh, Lord.
I'm rolling with Puma.
Oh!
Hey, Bernie,
Cause see, Phil Knight
can you speak to
with the money.
speak to your experience with Loma Linda traveling back and forth?
What about it?
Like, it was a certificate program, or did you get a master's?
I had a certificate program. I could have gotten a master's. I would have to supplant my life and go there and stay for a year. And I wasn't at the time.
For a master's,
Yeah, I could
a
have got.
master's in frost, though.
Yeah, it might have been.
Well,
No, I don't know what the.
remember, in the Loma Linda program, they all had to go there a week a month for 3 years. In the JU program, that didactic will be all online.
How long ago did you do that program out in Loma Linda, Bernie?
I was there from 1993. I graduated in 1997. I went out in March. I marched with the graduating class. I participated in graduation. I got a certificate of oral implantology on my wall.
That was like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Shane,
Oh,
how
it's
would,
a great program. It was a great program. Hilt was behind it. It was the concepts of the program were phenomenal. The politics. Goodacre, Klooster resigned. He retired, the dean, and they got a dean called Goodacre who was a prosthodontist. And when it comes in, he's a prosthodontist. The whole politics changed. Jaime had to go back and get him his pros program. Nick went to Perio, Kaplanis. So it just became politics for them. They became specialists in the traditional specialty route, and Goodacre just suppressed oral implantology.
I'm in. Okay.
Hey guys, I gotta run. I gotta call Duke. Duke was supposed to be on this call too, right? Hilt?
yeah,
Duke and I got some AAID work we're working on for you guys. I do this every day, 3 hours a day on average.
all right. Bernie, thank you for your time.
Yeah, I'm here for you.
Not a bad average, Bernie. Not a bad average.
We plan another meeting.
Yeah.
And the next meeting needs to be directed towards methods and how to fundraise.
All right. Well, Andy Bird knows how to get me. All of you guys know how to get me.
Bernie, thank you again. Bye-bye.
Hey, man, great to be here.
All right, guys. Ciao.
Get that shirt on for Bernie.
Get a Nike swoosh on, Bernie.
Joe Lau, you behave yourself out there down there in Atlanta.
I'm going to put on a Nike swoosh. I just had to sweat in this one. I was just doing my little calisthenics behind the scenes. Push-up. I got to get strong like Burton.
All right, guys.